you want to get your money under control, you better have a really good clarity of why you're doing it. It's not the surface that I want to get out of debt or I want more control over it. You got to go a couple layers deep to get to the root of what that is. What is it preventing me from doing? What is it preventing me from feeling? How long have I felt like this? Who else is dependent upon this change in my life? What happens if I don't get this taken care of? That's going to motivate you to break through the walls of habits and behaviors.
Welcome to Becoming Tantalum with me, Megan Bennell. Discover your brightest self in a journey of transformation and resilience. Let's embark on this path together, starting now. Hello and welcome back, my friends. I'm Megan Bennell, your host and your resident life coach who's here keeping it real, keeping it raw, and giving you actionable strategies so that you can live your best life. We like to keep it fun here and we keep it science-backed. Today's a little different though, because we're going to keep it finance-backed because we're going to talk a lot about money. So we're always going to keep it practical and hopefully we're going to give you some fun tips and tricks. Today, we're going to talk about something that gets a super bad rap, but can totally transform your life. And that's how you can manage your money and make solid financial decisions so that your finances can help unleash that next section of your life. So whether you realize it or not, your habits, your routines, and even your mindset are all part of your finance journey. And so you've either built it or you've ignored it, and it might be time to bring it back into light. So who better to help us understand all of that than my guest today, Connor Tyson. Hello, Connor. How are you?
Very good, Megan. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I am so excited to have you here. So Connor Tyson has Progressive Solutions is his company. He is a finance expert, and he has helped many businesses and individuals to organize, level up that whole money situation in their life. So we're going to take your money chaos and we're going to make it work for you. So Connor, before we get started, I always ask every single guest the same question.
Okay.
What is your morning routine and why?
Okay. So I get up every day at 6:30. I come down, grab a cup of coffee, and I read some inspirational scripture, let's just say.
I love
I
it.
journal a little bit, plan out my day, fill in the gaps, and then I take over as dad. Wake the
I
kids up,
love it.
get the guys off to school, and then become business owner.
Very cool. So we were just talking before we started recording about my massive cup of coffee, and apparently Connor has some large mugs too. So for those of you with big mugs, good for you. I love that. So it's interesting that you say that you journal as well, because we talk a lot about taking the time to really be with yourself, to allow your thoughts to come out. And so I love hearing that from a money guy too, because some people might think that those two things don't correlate.
Well,
So
I do.
good for you. I love it. Okay, let's jump into it. So let's start with the basics, if you will. Talk to me just about the general field of money and where you see most people finance wise. Where do they land? Are we doing well? Are we not doing well? What are we not doing? Give me the
Yeah, we,
landscape.
we are not doing well
Uh
overall
oh.
as a society. What's missing is number one, we all know it's not taught in schools.
True.
So the basics, you learn about money from your parents, right? And if you didn't have positive role models to teach you these things, you've been trying to build a car driving down the highway, and it's not working too well for a lot of people.
That's a good
Um,
metaphor.
yeah, it comes out to really lack of process,
Okay.
perspective, people, right? It's funny, as a money coach, it very rarely has to do with the money.
Ooh, interesting. Let's dive right into that, Connor. What does it have to do with?
Yeah, so habits and behaviors. Most people think it's about the what you need to do. It's not about the what. If I asked anybody in your audience right now, what do you need to do to become financially successful? They'd probably all rattle off pretty much four of the being basic things, right? So spend less than I make, avoid debt, save, give, be generous. Yeah, we know this, right?
Yes.
So why is it along this journey we're hitting roadblocks and not getting where we want to go? It's usually habits and behaviors, lack of process, right?
Okay.
So having a money system, if you will, like we were talking about systems
Yeah.
before, of how you operate with money, right? Number one, let's start with what money is, getting a good understanding of what it is, what it represents, time and value and work. And why would I save it? Because I don't want to work and I want more time later on in life. So once you understand those different things, you it's just like anything else, like your morning routine becomes a habit. You got to check in with your money, right? I've heard many times like the grass is always greener on the other side. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that guy's taking care of his lawn, right? So that's what it takes, right? There's no
Yeah.
magic wand to this stuff, right? And
Wait, Connor, that's why I have you here. That's why I have you here is for the magic wand. Never mind. Let's cut this all off.
there's whoop, no magic wand here, right? So it's basically habits and behaviors, getting a sense of control, clarity,
Ooh,
awareness, right?
ooh,
Sometimes people use the ostrich technique and they don't want to look at it,
fair.
right? But you got to sometimes just rip the band-aid off and say, okay, where am I in relationship to where I want to be?
Well, so
Get
let's
it?
talk about that.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about, you need this process, you need this system, finance wise, where do I start if I am an ostrich? Like
Yep.
where do I
Where I would
start?
start, yep. Good question. So I would start with the B word, which I don't mention. Let's get a money plan. When do
Ooh.
you get paid? How much money is coming in? Then where's the money going? Right? Needs, essentials, and non essentials if you're a business owner. On the personal side, needs and wants. Then, great. What are my other obligations? Maybe you have some debt. You want to get it out of your life. Are you using it as a tool? Do you have the cash to pay the debt off? If you do, great. You're using it as a tool instead of it holding you back from what you really want. I'm not opposed to debt. I can use it as
Right?
a tool today. Right. And then from there, communication. I have couples meet on a regular basis just to communicate. They talk about what's going on in their kids. What are the sports? How about where's the money at? Right? It's
Mhm.
okay. No accusatory things. If you're running a business, treat it like a business on the personal side. Keep it
Mhm.
non-emotional.
Mhm.
And then from there, get an idea of what you need to do next. Prioritization is a big one. We always have like life is a snow globe sometimes, and you have all these things going on. What is the most important? Clarity of your principles and values. Money is just a tool, it's a vehicle
Oh.
to live out the life you want to live. Okay, great. What is that? What is your why?
Mhm.
What is this whole journey about? What's important to you? Why is it important? What is it preventing you from doing? Right? All those things. And then you have some clarity as to what to do next. And then the power of focus is huge. Just focus on one thing at a time with all earnest effort of getting that under control, whatever that might be. Emergency fund, Christmas fund, family vacation fund, business expansion fund. I don't care what it is. But then you have, once that's done, high five across the kitchen table with the spouse.
Woo.
Next thing on the list.
I love it. I love it. So I can imagine that a lot of people listening, because I feel like this time sometimes too, I feel like, you talk about getting this plan. So I love the clarity and the awareness, right? And then you kind of figure out exactly what you need and the essentials. You make this plan. I feel like maybe I'm getting boxed in.
Okay. Restrictive.
Yeah, and that's scary, I think, a little bit. And so where is that flexibility and the freedom with money if you have a plan? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I always thought budgets were restrictive. I hate the B word. Money plans were restrictive, telling me what I couldn't spend my money on. And actually, it was actually the opposite. It was more permission to spend money with
Ooh,
awareness. I was being proactive versus reactive. I was telling my money where to go versus wondering where it went. Right.
interesting.
And as long as if it was important to me, I would put it in my money plan and I would make sure it happened. It was actually permission to spend money because then those other things that didn't really matter or weren't as high up on that list of what was important to me, the principles and values for myself and my family, those are the things I want to move,
Yeah,
right? So it gave me awareness, clarity. It allowed me to have open communication with other stakeholders at the table, i.e. my wife. And then it gave me clarity as to where I was in relationship to what I really wanted.
right,
Does that
right.
make sense?
Yes. No, it
It was
totally makes sense.
perspective. My
Yeah,
perspective was wrong. So it comes down to usually process, perspective. So my perspective was off on a couple things, and I was always reacting to things. I wasn't being proactive. But then the biggest piece that was missing, which we'll get into maybe, was the accountability and follow through. Left to my own devices, just like anybody else, I revert back to my old habits and
Of
behaviors,
course.
like going to the gym. You mentioned going to the gym.
Yes.
Very important to you. You have a really good why. You have a really good reason why you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym every day.
Yes.
And it's very vivid to you. In the beginning, it had to be, and that's why you still go.
Yes.
Same thing with this money journey. You want to get your money under control. You better have a really good clarity of why you're doing it. It's not the surface that I want to get out of debt or I want more control over it. You got to go a couple layers deep to get to the root of what that is. What is it preventing me from doing? What is it preventing me from feeling? How long have I felt like this? Who else is dependent upon this change in my life? What happens if I don't get this taken care of? That's going to motivate you to break through the walls of habits and behaviors and reverting back to. And that's where the accountability comes through. Someone can hold that mirror up to you. Say, does this stuff
Yeah.
really matter to you still? Yes, it does. Great. Put the gym shoes on and go to the gym. Or, yeah, pull out your budget and do this.
I love it. I love it. So, question for you. Let's say that we have a listener that is just embarrassingly to them in debt. I mean, is there any hope? What if they're living paycheck to paycheck and all they see is this debt, their credit card bills, going up and up and up and up every month? I mean, is there any hope?
There is hope. Yes, I've gotten dentists big, like if it's more than $600,000 of debt, yeah, maybe, right? I've gotten people out of debt with that amount of debt out of, right? So it is possible. It's really about what are you willing to do to change the habits and behaviors of what you got going on, right? I've heard the other B word, bankruptcy, get thrown around a lot, right? That is not free. People think that's just a free process. You pay to go through that process, and it stays with you for 7 to 10 years, and so on and so forth. It is an option. I'm not opposed to it, but the hope comes from, like, anxiety is the fear of the unknown and the future, right? So
Mhm.
it's like if we
Mhm.
can get some clarity on what you need to do and where the light at the end of the tunnel is, the finish line,
Yeah.
that kind of gives you some hope. And then move that finish line closer to them builds that momentum. And those
Yeah,
are small wins. You got to get some small wins.
the
If you
little bit
if
of
you've just been
progress.
losing with money for a long, long time, you get beaten down. And it's
Yeah.
spiritual, it's emotional, it affects your relationships, it affects a lot of things where you need to get some wins.
Yeah.
Small wins. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
And then every long journey starts with one step, right?
Yeah.
In the right direction. So, is there hope? Yeah, absolutely. I've seen massive transform I've saved marriages. I've seen
Oh.
massive transformations in people's lives.
I believe that you've saved marriages because money is such a anxiety-ridden topic for so many people. And like you said, it truly does affect relationships. So I can imagine this would ripple out in their life in amazing ways. So, question for you, because you had talked about it really is the person behind the money and not necessarily just the money. So, as a money coach, what exactly is your role? I mean, I would anticipate obviously you're helping me with all of the money and making that B word of some sort, but what else are you doing for your clients to make sure that that person that's in their way gets out of their way?
Yeah, basically having them get clarity as to it's their journey, right? I'm just
Yeah.
a guide in it. It's really that they're the hero in their own story, and that I help them I ask questions. I believe that they have the answers within themselves. I have to just ask the right questions for them to get clarity as to what it is they truly want. And I don't tell them what to do. It's kind of
Right.
crazy, right? So spitball ideas. If we were to, we can pay it off in June. What could we do to pay it off in April? So let's just spitball ideas, right? And then they start seeing possibilities. When you have blinders on, it's tough to see. But when people kind of open that up to you, you get some motivation of what you can do and then why
Right.
they would do it, right? And then
Yeah.
it's the accountability and follow through. I used to try to do things on my own for a long, long time, and I would always revert back. And then it would build that guilt, shame, and remorse further and
Right.
further. And I would always
Oh,
use
right.
the windshield, the rear view mirror instead of the windshield of the hope of what I wanted to do. But Yeah, there's a lot of things they can do. I mean, it's not up to me. It's really
Yeah.
how bad they want it. I've had people sell dining room furniture to get out of debt. The intensity of doing what you wanna do is on your side of the table. It's not up to me
Yeah.
of what they need to do to change it. But when you've had that "I've had it" moment and I need to change some things, they're no longer serving me, I sometimes just have to get out of the way. Just light the fuse and get out of the way,
I love that. I
which is
love that.
awesome.
So let's talk about some of those blunders, maybe, because we all, like you said, can revert back to habits. What do you think is the biggest mistake that you see people making when they're trying to set up this system or this process to get their money under control? And how do you think we can avoid falling into that trap?
Okay, so few of them, we the swiping of the card,
Mm,
right? Swiping of
mhm.
the card, you don't actually feel the money leaving. When I
Yes,
break a 20 or a 50, I feel that. When I'm in line
right.
with Starbucks or wherever, right? My friend, I swipe the card. I'm buying myself a venti. Everybody else is getting grandes, and when I have to break a 20, I'm just getting a venti. I'm out of the way. Like they're on their own, right? I
Yeah,
feel that, right? The other
yeah.
things I don't. You want to stop and pause. Be more of an aware consumer, right?
Okay.
Be more conscious of what you're doing and why you're doing it. It's not the immediate gratification. It's more of like sometimes you do things to fulfill emotions, right?
Hmm.
Of what that is. Like I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm guilty. I find myself in Target again. Why am I here? Or I'm in Home Goods. What is this about? Again, is it actually affordable? People don't want
Interesting.
to ask that question sometimes
No,
because
no.
they want the immediate gratification of what that is. But what's the consequence of doing it now?
Yeah,
Right? So it's basically borrowing from your future self.
yeah.
And
But
money is
pause.
yeah, pause, think, is this really what I want? Is this
Yeah,
actually going to give me what it is I truly want?
yeah,
If it is, then go ahead, buy it. I'm all for it. But if it's not, well, what would? What can we
yeah.
do to replace that? Right. The other things that people can do is just accountability is huge. Accountability, left to my own devices, I'm guilty of it.
Of course.
I need to really get vulnerable with somebody and share with them what it is that I'm missing, why I'm doing this, what is it that I'm really after. And when I'm not doing it or when my actions are not in line with that, I need somebody to call me out on that stuff.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to get to accountability in a second. So, question on what you just said. Well, first of all, you're in New York and I'm in California, but I'm pretty sure it's possible that you're following me around because you just mentioned Target and Home Goods. I'm just
Yes.
saying, Connor, have you been watching me? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So I love it. But you were mentioning the swipe of the card, which I think we 100% all can relate to. Are you suggesting that they use cash as much as possible? Because you're right. When I break a 20, a 50, 100, that's money gone, right? I
You
mean, it's
feel it.
literally gone out of my hand. Is that one of the tips that you give your
It's
clients? Is
behavior modification. It's
okay.
the same reason why they use poker chips in Vegas.
Yeah.
If I had to lay out $100 bill every hand and break that, I wouldn't play too many hands. I'd just get up. But when I'm
Right.
splashing the chips, no big deal. When
No
I
big deal.
swipe the card, I don't feel that pain until 30 days later.
Right. Right. When you feel all the pain at one time.
The
Okay.
other thing is awareness of, like,
Yeah.
where you are in relationship to your funds. Like, do you actually know how much you've been spending on these certain categories?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really about gaining awareness, and once you have that awareness, you're way more conscious of what you're spending on, the categories, and why, and
Yeah.
what's the importance of it. That's another big, behavioral thing that I've seen that helps people tremendously.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I like the idea of just a pause. So I actually the term that I use when talking about covering up your emotions or trying to fill a void with something that is not going to fill it is buffering. I'm sure that you've heard that term
Yeah, yeah.
before. And people buffer in all kinds of ways, spending money being one of them. But I work with a lot of women that want to lose weight and have a hard time, losing it and then sustaining it. And I say the same thing. I'm like, when you are eating to cover up sadness or frustration or anxiety or whatnot, you are stealing from your future self, essentially, because you are adding on those pounds for your future self that they're going to have to deal with. And yours is the opposite. You are stealing that from your future self so that they don't have that money. I love that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, let's talk about accountability because I do think that it's human nature to revert back to the way our brain has been wired based on our experiences and the habits that we hold. And
Yeah.
so, how do I hold myself accountable? Do you hold me accountable? Do you teach me how to be accountable? Who
Well,
do you?
yeah, I hope, yeah. So there's accountability partners. It doesn't have to be me. It could be a spouse or whatever. The way you
Okay.
hold yourself accountable to things is like I use dream boards. I don't know if you
Okay.
ever heard of it, right?
Yep.
You want to make that vision of what you want as vivid as possible.
Yeah.
Pictures, words, video, whatever it is you need to remind yourself on a daily, weekly, monthly basis of why you started this journey in the first place. Right. And then once you start getting the results, the momentum builds. And then
Yes.
where you thought you needed to be is no longer satisfying. And you want more,
Mm.
i.e., the gym, right? I just want to
Yep.
lose 10 pounds. That's not really what you want.
Nope.
What you want is to lose the feeling of inadequacy. You want to feel good in your clothes again. You want to have more energy for your kids. You want to, right? Okay.
Yep.
Once you get there, you lost the 10 pounds, you realize, yeah, I want more. This is good.
What's
And
possible?
I want, yeah, I want more. Same thing with money, right? So
Okay.
it's like, wow, I went through a month of not having too much month left over at the end of the money, right? It's like,
Yeah.
wow, I actually have an emergency fund. Wow, I know where my money's going. I was able to shop because it was in my budget, guilt free. I was no
Ooh.
longer winging it.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. I'm starting to adult with my money. This is awesome, right? And it's like, okay. And then you want more of that, and you're like, "Well," I ask the simple question sometimes, "Well, what do you think it is that got you where you are today?"
Mm.
And they're like, "Oh, well, it was probably this, this," and they rattle off a couple things.
Yep.
And I said, "Is that different from the way you used to operate with money?" They're like, "Absolutely." I'm like, "Okay, let's use a little algebra."
Yeah.
If right? If we continue to do the things we're doing and we add on to that, you'll probably get better results, correct? We get done. Perfect.
I love it. So, who do you find is the most common, if there even is, an account
Yeah.
as far as an accountability partner? Is it usually a spouse? Is it a friend? Is it because
It could be a
hope?
friend. It has to be somebody you trust, respect, like not respect, but someone that you know you look up to. Maybe it's
Yeah.
somebody that you inspire to be. Maybe it could be a coach, could be somebody non-emotionally attached.
Yep.
That might be a very viable person. It could be a spouse. It could be a best friend. Sometimes someone neutral. Sometimes you want somebody that's not emotionally attached that can just call out your BS when it's happening.
Yeah.
Right, and
Okay.
push you outside your comfort zone, but not push you too hard to the point where you shut down. You
Yeah.
need to have that very happy zone of like, if I'm not pushing you hard enough, you're not getting the results you want. But if I push you too hard, you're gonna shut down.
Right. Right.
And also the biggest thing is celebrate successes. You have to have somebody that recognizes those things within you you can't recognize and celebrates them.
Even those little wins.
Oh yeah. Little win.
Absolutely.
Yep. You just went to the gym 10 days in a row. You've never done that.
I love it.
We're going to get our body massage. We're going to go do whatever that is.
Yeah.
You got to do that stuff
I love it. I
because
love it.
otherwise it's just well, what is that? Like a road to drudgery. Like, who wants
Yeah.
to do that?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody. So I'm getting the impression that, because at the very beginning we had talked about, having those non-emotional conversations about money with your spouse, sitting across the table with them or whatnot. But really, you're not taking the emotion out of money. You're just placing it with the right emotions.
Yeah,
In
redirecting it to what really matters.
Yeah. And I love that because it is such an emotional topic, even though it's black and white, but it really isn't in our human nature. It's very emotional.
It's funny because those two things don't really line up. This is why money is difficult for a lot of people, in that money and columns and numbers and assets and liabilities are very logical, left side of your brain,
Right?
but it's very emotional. The commercials you watch during the holiday seasons, they all all marketing is, it deals with your emotions,
100%.
right? Of, am I a good enough provider? Am I getting enough adequate? Am I feeling adequate enough? Getting enough love? Am my prestige in the right place? Do I have the coolest iPhone 76? Whatever. That's the stuff. Those two things don't blend too well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's tough to delineate those two things.
I love that. Okay, I only have 2 more questions for you.
Please.
If you could give our listeners just one thing to do today, like one thing where they can start this process, one simple thing, what would that be?
Plan out the month ahead. Forget about
Okay.
this month. Plan out, get proactive, and tell your money where to go versus wondering where it went.
Okay.
That's the one thing I would do. That would change your perspective. Scrap this month, plan out next month now, pull out a calendar. What's unique about that month coming up? Because
Yeah,
the expenses you have now, 80% of them are the same as it was the month before, the month before that, the month before that. We need to account for the things that are variable.
I love that. So plan out our month. Okay, wrote that down. I got that. Okay, my next question. This is all very inspiring and exciting, and I feel like I could trust you with my money.
Yep.
So, Connor, if we want to work with you, what
Yes.
do we do? Where do we go? What's that
Yeah.
next step to get this help?
Next step, the best step is to take my go to my website,
Okay.
www.progress. You want to make some progress.
Ooh.
Progress FC. FC is financial coaching.com.
Yeah,
So progressfc.com. Everybody gets a 45-minute consultation free. There's tools and resources on there. I just want you to win with money. I don't sell any products and services or nothing. It's just a conversation, where you're at, what do you need help with, how can we get you to the next stage?
I love
And
it.
that's it.
Okay, everybody, go sign up. Let's get this money under control. It can be emotional in the best way and just propel you to exactly where you want to go. No shame, no guilt. Let's just get it under control and use it as a tool, like Connor said, to have it work for you. Connor, thank you. This has been very eye opening, I think. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us some tips and tricks and advice
Yep.
on what we can do to be in a better financial situation.
My pleasure.
I love it. And don't forget to go plan out your month, figure it out. That's your first step. So, thank you again for breaking this all down for us. It really can be a very complicated and scary topic, but it's something that we all need to put
Yeah.
into our life or get that control of in our life. I guess I should say. So, I know that our listeners are going to walk away with at least a couple things that they can put into their pocket and use, into their pocket like their money.
I like that. I like that.
And use. And hopefully they can reach out to you and schedule that time with you so that you can at least get them in the right direction.
Yeah, get in the right direction.
I love it. So thank you everyone for tuning in and hanging out with us today. Don't forget that building that money, building that system and that progress financially isn't about being perfect, just like everything else that we've always talked about. It's about creating a life that's in line with your values and your priorities. And so money is no different. So please stay tuned next week for some raw, real, actionable insights in another area of your life so that you can continue to work towards being your very best self. So until next time, don't swipe that card. Spend that cash instead, but pause before you do. Make sure it's in line with your values. Plan out this month and go create a life that shines just like Tantalum. We will see you next week.
Thank you for joining me today. If you want to take all of these concepts and tools to a deeper level, apply them to your life, and watch the transformation happen, I would love for you to join the Tantalum Tribe. That's a monthly membership where all of our community has access to live coaching, self-paced courses, guest coaches, podcast study guides, anonymous question boards, and more. You too can transform your life using the tools and strategies that we have with accountability built in from our community. I really hope that you join us at tantalumcoaching.com. That's TANTALUM coaching.com. Just click join the tribe. I can't wait to see you in there.
An ironic media production. Visit us at ironickmedia.com.